Well, our big focus, Israel is preparing to hold memorials today to mark the first anniversary of the October 7 attacks by Hamas, a day that changed the region forever. Tensions continue to escalate on multiple fronts as we've been reporting. Israel bombarded Beirut in what appeared to be its heaviest assault yet on the Lebanese capital on the eve of the one-year anniversary of Hamas's October 7 attack. The airstrikes aimed at dismantling Iran-backed Hezbollah displaced yet more civilians in Lebanon, where an estimated 1.2 million people have already left their homes. Israel has also intensified attacks in Gaza a year after Hamas's attack. Israel now seems on the brink of war with Iran while locked in a bitter conflict in Gaza. Experts argue that few Israelis or Palestinians believe it will end anytime soon, but security across Israel is heightened with officials on alert for any attacks timed to coincide with the anniversary. Meanwhile, in Iran, airports announced the cancellation of flights over the weekend, a move seen as a precaution against potential Israeli airstrikes targeting Iranian military or nuclear facilities. Now, although those flight restrictions were later lifted after confirming safety conditions, the tension in the region remains palpable. In fact, as we speak, the Biden administration in the United States looks increasingly unable to limit either Israel's brinkmanship with Iran or its ground operations against the militias in Gaza and Lebanon that Tehran supports. The world is closely hoping for stability amidst rising unrest. Here are the finer details. Take a look at the recap of a year in war.
A year since militant group Hamas launched an unprecedented cross-border attack on Israel on October 7, 2023. West Asia is on the brink of an all-out war. Hamas's assault various kibbutz at the Nova Music Festival killed 1,200 Israelis and took 250 hostages. Israel's subsequent retaliation triggered a year of devastation and turmoil across the region and the world.
Afsar!
365 days since the attack, 105 hostages have returned to Israel, while 72 have been killed.
This is my father, he's still in captivity, and we don't know anything about him since then.
Including 3 killed accidentally by IDF forces operating in Gaza. 97 hostages continue to remain in Hamas's captivity in Gaza even today.
אזרחי ישראל, אנחנו במלחמה. לא במבצע, לא בסבבים, במלחמה. הבוקר חמאס פתח במתקפת פתע רצחני נגד מדינת ישראל ונגד אזרחיה. אנחנו בתוך זה משעות הבוקר המוקדמות.
A week after Hamas's onslaught left Israel's defenses in shambles, Israeli forces began bombing Gaza and limited ground operations into the region. Followed by a full-scale invasion into the region on 27th October. Over 2/3 of Gaza has been destroyed since the war, including schools, hospitals, and more. The WHO reports that only 12 of 36 hospitals in Gaza remain partially functional, leaving over 2 million Palestinians without access to proper health care. After a month of fighting, Israel and Hamas agreed to a Qatar and Egypt brokered temporary ceasefire on 24th November, the only ceasefire in the year-long war. During this 6-day truce, 105 hostages and 240 Palestinian detainees were freed, while several humanitarian aid trucks entered the strip. The conflict resumed on 1st December with the IDF launching their first big ground assault on southern Gaza on the outskirts of Khan Yunis. Since the war began, Iran-backed Yemeni militant group the Houthis' attack on commercial shipping vessels has tormented global trade, restricting crucial shipping routes passing through West Asia. While the US, UK, among other allies have retaliated against the Houthis, the Indian Navy played a significant role in rescuing numerous ships struck by Houthi missiles. Roughly 6 months into the war, the region saw its first major escalation as tensions grew between Israel and Iran after Tel Aviv struck an Iranian embassy in Syria. Iran rained down missiles on Israel, its first attack targeting Israel directly from its own soil. Israel responded to the attack by striking an Iranian airbase. Between May and July, U.S. State Secretary Blinken continued his shuttle diplomacy along with mediators Qatar and Egypt, to get Israel and Hamas on the negotiation table. While Hamas agreed to a truce proposal in early May, raising hopes, Israeli officials called it off as a ruse. Meanwhile, Israeli forces rescued 4 hostages from Gaza while killing over 200 Palestinians. IDF's massive ground operations in Gaza displaced millions of Gazans, pushing them to the last corner of refuge in Rafah. While Netanyahu makes a controversial trip to the United States, vowing to continue the war until he secures total victory. The ICJ rules Israel's settlement in Gaza and the West Bank as unlawful. Perhaps the most consequential moment in the Israel-Hamas war apart from October 7th occurs. Israel kills Hamas's political chief Ismail Haniyeh in a targeted strike in Tehran, shifting the war into a dangerous new phase. Last month saw the conflict expanding, with Israel now striking Lebanese militant group Hezbollah, targeting their pagers and radios and rigging them with explosives. In a further blow to the group, Hezbollah chief Nasrallah is killed in a barrage of Israeli strikes on Beirut.
In the past 365 days, more than 40,000 Palestinians have been killed in Gaza and thousands more in Lebanon, in a war that has changed West Asia forever. As the Israel-Hamas war enters its second year, the clock is ticking for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who faces varying domestic pressures, from right-wing groups who refuse to participate in ceasefire talks to protests that are demanding hostage release. Meanwhile, his global position continues to decline as he wages a war with no end in sight. Only time will tell what lies ahead for the people of West Asia. Disha Bagchi for NDTV World.